Hey y'all, welcome back to Knitting in Our Jeans. I'm Liz.
I'm Carolyn.
And you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Tooliz for you, TOOLIZZFORYOU.
And I'm CPREDMOR on Ravelry and occasionally posting as Knitting in Our Jeans on Instagram. I start out with the best of intentions and they fall by the wayside.
Yeah, well.
So, I have a question.
Okay.
Is there a way with Ravelry, is there a way to make notes and stuff and then make them private?
Yes.
We will have to investigate this because I must have made some comment about my knitting and someone said write it up in a book. I could make a spreadsheet, but then it's linked to my computer and I'd rather have it up. I could put it on our drive, on Google Drive, which I will have forever and a day. So that's a possibility. So maybe
you'll have to show me what you're talking about.
Well, one of our commenters said something about you could just write it in a book. And I thought, that's brilliant. I could write it in a book, but it's also there on Ravelry.
But also, what you all don't understand is that my mother would write it down in a book. But my mother and I like to collect notebooks.
Yeah.
And only use half of them. And then forget which notebook has what in it. So, it's a great idea. Unfortunately, it does not work well for our brains.
Right. So something in the cloud is better.
Which is why, actually, for work, it's very funny. Because if you look through my notebook that I use for work, I have taped in pages from other things. I've put Post-it notes. Also, any list that I have decided that needed to be written down, whether it be personal or for work, it's in there. I have a list of whips to get done in my work notebook because that's just that is my current dump of stuff.
So what I was thinking,
so yes, on Ravelry projects, you can now you have public notes and you have private notes.
Okay. So I may use that, or what I may do is make a spreadsheet and put it up in our drive, and then I could put a picture up in it. And I could talk about the yarn and everything that I used. I know.
You can also try.
Can your stash be private?
That I don't know.
Because I had another person come looking for yarn.
Right.
And I have my stash listed there because I want to be able to see it when I go to not to a grocery store.
Right. To a yarn shop.
Right.
But, okay.
You know, and yes, I have a lot of yarn here, but there's really none of it that I want to part with.
Then that's all you have to say.
Oh.
You don't have to get affronted every time someone reaches out.
I guess.
You get very upset when people reach out to you, and I'm like, Ma, you have your stash up. You are allowed to say no.
But I don't say that I'm willing to sell it.
That's fine.
And I think that...
No. I mean, hey, you're also the person who told me to reach out to people when I was looking for special yarn. Okay. Even if they didn't have it listed as willing to trade or sell.
All right. I'm just saying that for me...
Yes.
Since I don't have it listed as willing to trade or sell, then the answer is no, I'm not willing to trade or sell.
That's fine. And that's what people
because I haven't been putting up anything that I've added. So because I had that one person who got really snippy.
Well, that's on them. That's not on you.
You know, it's like
that's on
them. Anyway. So, what I've been working on.
Yes.
I have been working on my cardigan, my ink.
Yes.
A lot. In fact,
it's so funny. I don't know if we told you all this last week, but when Mom put it on the couch last week, and she put it on inside out, and I go, oh, that's lovely, but the cables aren't really defined. And my boyfriend was here and was like, it's lovely, but... And she looks at it and she goes, oh, that's because it's inside out. And flips it around and we both were like, oh, that is much better.
Much better.
Much better.
Which is why it's knitted in reverse stockinette. Now, that's the one part about the sweater I really don't like. I really don't like the fact that the predominant stitch in this is purl. Because it slows me down. I am using my Indian River... hexagonal needles, and they are helping a great deal in reducing hand pain. So
that's good.
Yes, and they're quite sharp, which is good in making cables, especially without a cable needle, because that's what I'm doing. None of these cables involve moving more than 2 stitches at a time, or it's 4 stitches, like pick up 2, move 2. So they're very good at picking up the stitches. They're also good at poking at my fingers. So if you notice, I have Band-Aids wrapped around my thumb and my finger. And they're the new skin type of ones. So they work quite well, and they'll last for a couple days before I have to renew them. So I have finished.
You've done a sleeve.
So
that is beautiful.
One
with
sleeve.
The cable down it.
Well, and it's not down the entire thing. It starts at 7.5 inches from the arm, from the
underarm. So
from the underarm.
So about
halfway
here.
Yes.
Well, on me, that would be here. On you, it's probably closer to your actual elbow.
Right. And so then you have the cable that is going down the front of the sweater on the sleeve. And I have reached that point.
On your second sleeve?
On my second sleeve.
Which is probably close to your body.
Here.
Yes.
So, can you see? Yes.
Just a little bit.
I have started the first. Help me here.
You've lost it. You've just begun the cable. Look, you can just start to see it.
That's it. So I've just started the cable there. I do 11 total pattern, 11 sets of 8 for decreasing the sleeve down. I'm in the 8th pattern now, so there'll be 8, 9, 10, 11. So there'll be 4 more decreases. I may do a 5th because I think I have to count my stitches. I know I added 2 in extra, but I think now that I'm recollecting, I think it's because I ended up with 2 short. So it may have worked out. I'll count when I get just finished. To the 11th. I had the right number on the first sleeve. And then what I'll do is, you'll notice I was taking my alligator clips off. What I do is then knit to the length of the first sleeve, which I've tried it on. It's perfect. So I like having my sleeves exactly the same, or within a quarter inch.
With the cable, you can know what that is, because you can know what row you left off on.
I left off on the final row.
There.
On 8.
And so and then you just count how many.
I could do that, but I actually like using clips, because the other thing it does is it keeps the sweater more compact.
I like that too. I'm just saying because
yes, it's a double measure.
Yeah, because my brain will stretch the second, and when I do that, I will stretch the second sleeve to make it match the first one.
Oh, I don't do that.
Oh, I will.
No.
This is why I also tend to do all of my sleeves as much as I can, 2 at a time, because, I mean,
then
again,
you know you're not stretching it.
Yeah, but again, this is another example of how...
You versus me.
Yeah, well, and could be the difference of 4 inches on each sleeve.
Yes.
So it's a total of 8-inch difference.
By knitting this...
Of knitting.
With the one sleeve attached, it's less flapping in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it. It is usually when I knit an all white sweater, by about this time I'm ready to throw it in the trash. And something about knitting all white. I like knitting all black. I like knitting gray. I have a thing about all white, and I don't know what it is. So anyway, that is why I bought this yarn.
It's beautiful.
Because it's white with little hints of color.
Pink and blue.
Yes. Which would make it a perfect baby sweater, but it's for me. And I think it'll be good for the summer. Well, obviously it's good anytime you need just a light cardigan. I think it's going to be very light. But I'm quite pleased with it, and I'm not upset with it. I find that the cabling, I was very happy when the first sleeve when I got down to the cabling, because I was really having to make myself stick to knitting the sleeve until I got to the cable. And then the cable has 8 rows. And so that exactly matches that decrease and the repeat. And then, of course, once the decreasing finished, it's still 8 rows of the pattern. And each row, obviously, is different.
Mm-hmm.
So, plus I like the fact that the sleeves are knit in the round. That's good. I'm having to pull or tighten the yarn quite strenuously when I make the switch from one needle to the other with the magic loop. Thank you. I was going to call it magic circle. Oh well. Because otherwise I was getting a little bit of a ladder. I know it'll wash out when it comes to doing the
washing and blocking.
Washing and blocking. Thank you. And it has false seams. So on the body of the sweater and on each sleeve, I've got this false seam thing going on, which is interesting. I don't know. I might have done a seed stitch. I think that might, or even maybe a linen stitch. I mean, I actually would like something with a little bit more body to it, and I think a linen stitch would do that. I'm going to have to think on that, because if I do this again or have another one where it's just 2 fake stitches to make a false seam, maybe something like a linen stitch would give it that extra body that a seam would. But other than that, it's actually going pretty well. So since I didn't have any sleeves when I started this week, it looks like I'll have 2 sleeves, 2 finished sleeves by the time I see you next, and I'll be back to the body. The body is on cotton yarn at the moment, and yes, I have, for some reason, I decided to attach the ball of yarn that's used for the body using knitting needles, but it's working for me.
You know what? If it works, it works.
It's working for me. It's keeping it all together, because otherwise this ball of yarn gets tangled. And I see no reason to start and stop yarn just to start and stop yarn. So I know that the body's got to be longer, so this will totally be used up. There's no need to cut it off to start a sleeve. I didn't want to do that. So anyway, my ink is progressing wildly. And I should be back on the body maybe by Wednesday or Thursday. We're not going out tomorrow except to get groceries. So, you know, I'll have like an hour that I won't be knitting. And other than that, I'll be in my favorite place on the couch. I will also say that I've been exercising every day this week.
Good.
Yes. And yes, I know it's because I have a doctor's appointment in the middle of March. And I'm supposed to have lost significant amounts of weight. Well, he only asked for 10 pounds. But I tried changing my diet, and I found out that my eating all of the vegetables does not lead to loss of weight. And when you add in the sunflower seeds, I actually gain weight. I can actually gain weight being a vegetarian. What can I tell you? So it was waking up to that realization and getting back on some kind of plan. I think I found the secret sauce at the moment. So that's good. There's an app on my phone called Lose It, and I'm tracking what I eat. It doesn't yell at me, but it just...
Which is nice. That's something
Weight Watchers?
Yeah.
Yes. No, the Lose It is just me keeping track, which is lovely.
Which can help a lot.
It does, because I find that...
but it doesn't yell at you. Like, it doesn't say, oh, well, you should do this and this and this. It just goes...
It doesn't.
This is what happened.
This is it. So, and every once in a while, I can click on things and I can get recipes, but with our food allergies, it doesn't usually work. I will say that the vegetarian cookbook that you got me has been really good at giving me alternatives for what to cook the chickens and everything else in. And I can load up on the tomatoes and the asparagus and those things, as long as I stay away from the sesame seeds and all that kind of stuff. So I have been either walking or biking and stretching and biking and stretching and walking every day this week, and I've managed to lose as of this morning, I'm back to what I weighed the last time I saw the cardiologist.
That's good.
So that's good. And I don't see him for another 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I have the possibility of making it to the next decade of pounds before I see him, which would be pleasant because while it won't be what he asked of me, it'll be close. And I'll get, okay, keep doing this. It's a matter of finding the secret sauce, obviously. Because what I would love to do is stick my head in the bag of chips and just eat the chips.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do that. I have managed not to do that at all for a while.
Good.
And I miss them terribly. But anyway, so that's, I've been walking and I've been knitting. So you can see that I've been busy.
Yep.
Yeah. What have you been doing, dear?
Well, I am on the last 2 sections of this shawl.
Are you kidding me?
No. So I have done...
So you're on 24, 24?
Well, so this is actually, I'm on 25, because, so you do 23, which is your start of your decreases. And then for 25 to do on this side, you don't have to pick up any stitches from section 24.
No.
So why not just go on to section 25? So I did.
Okay.
I'm going to finish out this corner, and then I will pick up
It's
here.
the same color.
With the same color, and just with the same color from 25. 24 will be the same color. And again, it's just decreasing until 3 stitches and then binding off.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it's going. And I got frustrated with it a few days ago. And I saw this self-striping yarn from a friend of mine.
Well, that is nice.
I know, it's so pretty. And so I cast on a sock. So we'll see what becomes my purse project this week, or my Subway project, I should say. I was knitting this actually in the restaurant last night for dinner. And it was funny because I couldn't tell in the dark that the gray and the light blue were 2 different colors.
Oh, so
and I was like,
one big.
Where is the next color? And then I got to the next color, and I was like, look, I got to the next color. And then
really
look, I got to the next color.
It really does keep you going.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how much. I will tell you that until I got to that patterning on the sleeve, it was so hard not to start a new project. I wanted to start a new, let's cast on something else. Not like work on another whip, but no, let's cast on a new project. Because I've got a couple projects up here that I'd love to start. But I had told myself that I was working on the stuff that was at the bottom of the sofa, which the Versa was part of. Because I really did want an off-white, white-ish cardigan for the summer. Anyway, so I stuck with it. I am proud of myself. Notice I'm patting myself on the back for that. Yes. Also, I want to tell you that a couple of you have written comments, and I hadn't responded back until yesterday or today. It's because YouTube has moved comments that I see. Normally, before this, they would go to some red bell, and I would click on the bell, and there would be the comments, and I would answer the comments, and all would be good in my world. Now, apparently, that bell does not do something that it used to do, so I have to remember to go look for the comments. So I apologize for not responding earlier. I will try to remember to look at the comments section, and so I can answer them. Let's see what else is new and exciting. Do you have anything else before I go on to mail?
I've done some sewing.
Oh.
So last week, my friend and I are making a jumpsuit for another friend. It's the Meadow jumpsuit from Mood, from the Mood Society. So it's a free pattern, which has its ups and downs.
They're not as detailed patterns.
No.
In terms of the
directions. Yeah. Because look, there's this beautiful notched collar.
That's a detail.
It literally stated attach under collar. Attach collar. And I was like, I'm sorry. What? So I looked it up, I figured it out, and I did this beautiful
a pretty good job.
Notched collar on both sides. So
I mean, if you want, you could heat up that presser that I have downstairs, the one with the clamp.
Yeah, the clamp.
And use a wet handkerchief and really knock that sucker down if you want.
I haven't decided yet. It was a thought. I also had that thought.
I will tell you that I'm sorry I didn't get that as a steamer.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been another $100, but it would have been $100 well spent had I but known.
So I also then did what you can't see, because it's out of screen, but I did the side seams, which are huge and a big thing to get done on this, as it is a jumpsuit. So all that's left to do on that before
the inseam
we put sleeves on it is the inseam, which I did not get to today. So maybe that'll happen next week. Our friend don't think will be in town in the next few weeks, so I still have some time. And then we have to figure out the sleeves. But I'm very pleased. It's also very funny because the friend we're making it for is a bit more slender than I am. And so when I try and put it on, it does not fit in ways. And I'm like, right, because this person doesn't have the tush I have. So it's just, I'm thinking of accommodations for that kind of thing, which will obviously all get ironed out in the fitting.
Right. So why do you have to figure out the sleeves?
Because the person we're making it for lives in California, so we don't want to make full-length sleeves.
So
but we also don't want to make it.
Right.
We also don't want to make it sleeveless.
Got it.
So there's a flounce that goes at the bottom of the sleeve that we have modified. We modified the pattern so that it fit the sleeve cap.
Interesting.
So we might just do a little flounce of a sleeve. We wanted to put it together first.
Right.
Get it all put together. Because I think what we'll end up doing is just basting that in.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
And see what the recipient would prefer. But yeah, I'm very pleased with that. We did not use the ties pattern. We just, perfectly honest, we ripped a 5-inch piece of fabric off to the end of the bunch of fabric we had. I sewed it in half inch seam allowance, because everything has a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this. And then I just put a point on it. And I think that's much, I prefer doing ties that way, just unless there's like shaping in the tie, because it's just easier. And then you don't have to worry about grain line. You don't have to worry about, all of your markings lining up.
Okay.
So yeah, I did that. And then,
yeah,
he's not stuffed yet, so, but I did finish a raccoon stuffed animal.
Now you're going to embroider eyes?
Yes, I'm going to embroider eyes and a nose on, but I'm going to stuff it, and all of our stuffing, I think, is at home. Well, or at my home. I have stuffing. I don't want to use all of your stuffing.
That's a plan.
But I don't know. You can probably tell this is a batik kind of cotton fabric, and then this is a felt. Really, most of these stuffies are meant to all be made in a felt, but I didn't have enough of the gray, and I felt that this would be a bit more durable for a small human, whose mom, I think, will get a kick out of it. I'm not going to put a tail because I am concerned about the pull factor. So we shall see. I'm just going to probably trim up a few things, but then I will stuff it at home, and then I will put it in the box, and I will mail the box off. But yeah, I thought he was really cute. I've also got the pieces to make a very small one, which I thought would be really cute, until I realized how small it is, and I was like, not for such a youngin'.
No.
But I think, I do think his mom will get a kick out of
That's very
this.
cute.
Or at least I hope so. So that'll be...
I think it looks really cute.
I think it's super cute. So that was fun to put together and actually get done, because I've been wanting to make one of them for a while. I've had the pattern for a little bit. It's a free pattern. I'll put the link below. They've also got the FluffMonger also has a bunch of other animals. So, yeah. But I was really pleased. I cut this out, like probably a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And then didn't get to it last week. And then just knocked it out tonight.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, so the pattern I was talking about last week,
Yes.
and very excited about, is this one. And I believe it mimics the dress that everybody was paying like $200 for.
The
last summer.
The lounge dress? The nap dress?
Yeah. So, I forget exactly how much it cost me, but probably less than $20. It's a McCall's. And
if you got it recently, there was a sale, so that was like $6.
Probably got it at a sale. And private home use only. Gauze, linen, cotton blends, polished cotton. I will probably get a cotton blend, something with a little bit of polyester in it, so that it will take being wadded up in a corner. Because
boat life
is real. And then I bought some yarn from Knit Picks, Muse. It's fingering weight, and it is a nice deep gray, and I have 5 of them, and it's to go with this. Yes, that is an eye-popping, eye-watering color from Asylum Fiber, and I now have 9 skeins, which will be plenty to make a dress, and I'm very excited. So I'm thinking of making it the pattern over there,
the breathing
space. I'm thinking of making it like a breathing space, so that the gray will actually be the yoke. I know many people would think that I would make this the yoke, but I think that's really too eye-watering. So if I make this the yoke and then do 2 rows of this and 2 rows of this, that it will tame the pink down, especially having it on the diagonal. And since the cardiologist wants me to lose more weight even than I will have lost by the time my appointment is in 2 weeks, I will be continually smaller. So someone who's smaller wearing something like that will be less eye-watering. Anyway, I now have enough to make the dress that I had in mind, and I am quite pleased with the whole thing.
Good.
So yes, that floats my boat. Although I'm not going to do it soon. I think what I'm going to do soon, maybe one of these breathing spaces in cotton, because boating season is coming up. Richard actually had me out to the boat this week. It was supposed to get up to 49 degrees. It never got above 39 degrees. My legs froze almost solid. It was, I only lasted 2 hours and said we had to go home. He was not upset with that because I think he was freezing also. It's a little bit warmer under the plastic covering on the boat because you get no wind action. However, we are not in the sun where our boat is stored at the moment. When we were at Serenity, it was it was a white plastic, but we were in the sun. There were no trees overshadowing us, and here there are afternoon trees, so you don't get quite the oven effect that we had on the boat in Serenity. I wish we could have this boat at Serenity, but their lift only handles boats that are 16 feet wide, and ours is just a tad wider than that. So anyway, the boat, we're working on the boat. The boat, we got the fuel out of the one tank, so that's good. And Richard is, I don't know what he's doing with it.
He's excited about it.
He's filtering it. He's distilling it. For some reason, we got bugs in the diesel. He admits he did not put the biocide in every time we got fuel, so we may have introduced the bugs. The bugs may have been in the tank, and by us not using the biocide every time when we first got the boat, it may have encouraged the bugs.
Actual bugs or bacteria?
Bacteria that make the diesel frothy. Yes. Yeah, it makes it actually depending on how bad they get, it can look like a milkshake.
Mm.
And it doesn't work well in the engines. Anyway, we managed to get the tank just about emptied. Next time he goes out, he wants to take rags and use them on a bent coat hanger to really then wipe the rest of the tank to get the rest of all of the diesel out and really to get as clean as we can get it while working through a hole of about that size. There is no large top on this, no large access at all. And the drain for this tank is above the level at where the fuel is at the moment. So we've actually gotten out more fuel than you can get out of the drain. Why they don't have the drain at the bottom of the tank, I don't know. But the other thing is that the boat is canted a little bit towards the back. So it may be that the drain is at the bottom in the front, but not in the back. And of course we can't get to the back because that's the end of the boat. And there is a bulkhead there that separates the fuel tank from the engine, which it probably is a good thing. Yeah. So they couldn't put the drain there. They did the best they could. Right. So anyway, the boat is moving.
How's the fiberglass going?
The fiberglass is doing nothing. It has to be 60 to 65 degrees for the fiberglass to move apace. Chuck, the fiberglass guy, and that's how he's known, as Chuck the fiberglass guy. The name of his thing is Chuck's Fiberglass. Good. So Chuck the fiberglass guy has been out there. He had done some sanding to investigate late in the fall. Your father has filled out all the forms that was needed by the manufacturer in order to get the release of information about what they call the schedule of fiberglass layup. It's really how the layers are set up in the original production of the boat, which will be very helpful in the repair of the boat. And then the other thing he did is I think he's ordered new propellers. And I know that doesn't sound exciting, but for me it really is, because I'm used to sailing on a sailboat that either has an external gas kind of outboard engine that you just lift up out of the water, and therefore its propeller is not interfering with your speed. And that's the kind of engine we had on our J24. When we got to the J35, it had an internal Volvo engine, I think Volvo or Yanmar. The third boat had a Yanmar engine. This one, we've got two engines, and I think they're Yanmars too. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at them recently. Anyway, they have prop shafts, or actually they have the propeller shafts that come out, sail drives. These are sail drives, so they come down and go straight out, but their propellers were fixed. You think, well, yeah, that way they stay open and they actually work. But on a sailboat, you're not constantly running the propellers, and those two sets of propellers actually slow down the boat. Right. Whereas our previous two large boats had propellers that folded. So you ran them, when you run them going forward, they fan out. Like if you did that to a whirligig, it wants to come out because of centrifugal force? Centripetal force. But when you want to close them, you just run the engine in reverse for a beat or two, and it shuts the propellers so that now they're as flat as if you were holding your hands like this. And it looks like we're going to be getting two sets of folding propellers, which will be nice. And then we have someone at the club who wants to buy our old dinghy. So
thank goodness.
Yes. Then we can get a dinghy that's good for me. Yep. So anyway, all kinds of boat stuff happening. Well, I'll believe it's one of the things I'll believe it when I see it.
Yep. Hey, I was just excited that last week, all of a sudden I get a text message. We've installed the gasket for the hatch above your head, which is very exciting because
her head, like when her head is in the bed, not the head that's by the toilet.
Right. So
Because you have
I know. In my cabin, there is a hatch above my head, which is lovely. I guess it was Labor Day?
Labor Day.
So I go out there, I stay the weekend, or 2 of the 3 days, whatever. I stay
2 nights.
2 nights. I come home. Mom texts me that night and goes, "Good thing you didn't stay an extra night." And I was like, "Why? Like, what happened?" And she goes, "Well, there's now water in your bed at your head." And I was like, "Oh, great, great." So my father then put a little bottom of a milk jug,
yes,
as a little drip tray. When I stayed there for
and it worked.
The trip out,
because it didn't drip that frequently.
No,
but it was just constant.
It was also very funny because my father knew that if it did drip on my head, he would know about it.
Well, she'd be in bed with us.
I mean, either that or I'd be sleeping upstairs and he'd have to turn the heat on. He would have had to be running the heat.
You were warm enough, though, right?
Oh, yeah. We had
you
lots of layers.
You had a sleeping bag if you needed to. You could also use
I had layers.
You had layers. We had layers.
It was fine.
It was fine. Absolutely fine.
But it was very funny.
But we did have a problem with the generator because we had the heat running the one night in
Cold Spring.
No. Eaton's Neck, and it made a bang, and then made a change in the sound at about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night. Yep. And Elizabeth and I looked at each other, that didn't sound good. So we turned it off.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out later.
Yeah.
That the generator's impeller
lost a fin.
No more than a fin. Had lost several fins.
Oh, yeah.
So it looks like an octopus like this, and it revolves around, and it picks up a little bit of water. Each one of these things pick up a little bit of water, and that has been thrown where it can cool off the engine. So it's within a closed system. But each of these things has to be there in order for there to be enough water thrown to cool off either the motor or the generator that is running. Now, whether that's the cause of
the
boom, we're not sure. But I can tell you that the generator was running when it was in the yard because we had to have the generator running in order to winterize it. Yeah. And we had to put in a new impeller. Yes. So the generator was making fine noises in the boatyard. So that's okay. Yes. So we didn't break it that night.
That's good. But what I was saying was my father then ordered a new gasket to go around the hatch. And so I got a very exciting text message from my mom going, "Your hatch should no longer leak on your face." I was like, well, it never did, but that's good to know.
These rubber gaskets dry out.
Yeah.
You know, they age, they dry out. I don't know whether
there's sun, there's salt, there's all kinds of stuff.
And I don't know whether there's some kind of mistreatment that can happen also. Who knows? Because I certainly don't. But we have now replaced many of the gaskets. The gaskets over the holds of the engine, so they should no longer be getting wet that way.
Oh, good.
Yes. We had fixed the outside shower on the boat, so its hose no longer leaks into that engine compartment. So the engine compartments should be much drier than they had been. Her hatch should not leak. I believe we fixed our hatch. So we fixed.
Well, you fixed that one, your hatch, a while back.
Well, yes, because
you had to sleep in my side.
Father didn't like
sleeping in my side.
Well, no, because he likes having things the way they're supposed to be.
Yes,
and I appreciate that. So there were a number of hatches who, needed to be seen to, which we did. And now we've just got a list of regular maintenance things. The only thing that we really have to fix that's a big deal before we get out is to take the side window off. So we have to cut or stick a putty knife around this entire window and get it off, scrape it, sand it, mostly scrape it with a paint scraper, and the boat with a paint scraper, and then we need to re-adhere it because apparently its glue has come undone, and every time we hit a wave,
water
comes in that window.
And that's the forward on my side.
Which is why it was always wet.
And why it would always smell musty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, figuring these things out, so we fixed the front window, which had a tremendous leak, which we didn't know.
The front window.
Yes, the front window. And we found that out by spraying it with a hose. We found out about the side window by spraying it with a hose. Actually, I was up there for some reason during a storm and noticed it was leaking. So, there were places that always seemed to have water in the bilge, and you couldn't quite figure out why. It wasn't a tremendous amount. It wasn't like the bilge was always on. It was just like, I don't know, it's wet. Why is it wet? So we figured it out. So we need to take that window off and then use heavy-duty tape to hold it in place while it's resetting. I don't know how we're going to do that. Richard will do enough research to figure it out. Believe me, I have complete confidence in that. Whether it's tape it all the way across the window and up onto the deck, he'll figure it out. But other than that, the rest of the stuff is regular maintenance, which is nice. Everything else, I think, has been fixed. And so then once we get the window fixed, we can just start addressing things as they fall apart. And you do things like put new impellers in all 3 engines, so the generator and the 2 engines at the start of the season, so they should last the season.
And you always have an extra one of each.
You always have an extra one. Well, each one of the engines take the same impeller.
Great.
So you only need like 1 or 2 extras around. So, and we put new gaskets in the refrigerator. We put new sliders in the refrigerator. So now the refrigerator's doing really well. It works now on a 2 rather than a 5. We turn on 5 to get it started, but then it goes down to a 2. Yeah. The rest of the trips you're using a lot less electricity. So it's really moving along, and, I'm looking forward to it. So if we can get the bottom.
I'm excited that you'll have the whole. We are all hoping in this household that we get a full season on Magic this coming year. Yes.
And look at this. My collar was all fakakta. Anyway. So it's moving along, which is nice. And if I don't get out to the boat this week, I'm sure I'll get out there next week, and because it's starting to get a little warmer. And
you say that,
I do better when it's 50 or above, not
in the
39 and above. What can I say? But other than that, things are moving along. So my knitting's doing well. I'm trying to be very firm with myself in finishing up these projects, and firm with myself in terms of getting down to the basement and doing some kind of exercise, which is good. And other than that, do you have anything else, my dear?
No, I'm trying to finish up this shawl first, and then I think I'm going to assess some sweater whips and get those, and then I will go back to my cast-ons, because I really do want that nurtured sweater, but I really should get some of these whips done first.
It feels good to get the whips done.
Does.
It feels good to have the floor clear. I was so desperate this week, I almost started back on my embroidery. So,
wow.
So desperate I was. But anyway, I was really good. I stuck with it. Obviously, you can see that. So we'll see how far I get on my ink this week. And other than that, I think we're about ready to weave in those ends. Have a great week, people. And we'll see you
again
next
later.
time. All right. Bye-bye.